Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Tyrone back with Tech Life. Great article here from Mike over at Light Reading. I'll leave a link to it in the description so you guys could check it out. So this is turning into a very interesting situation for T-Mobile. So Lumen considers all possible arrangements for fiber business. So Lumen has been struggling for a while. They've hinted at the market, so it won't be like a huge surprise for the street that they're looking at these types of possibilities like wholesale that T-Mobile recently announced with Lumos. They're looking at some of that. But another option that's also explored through Lumen is putting the company and the mass market business up for sale entirely. And this is where I think it gets very interesting and kind of a tough choice for T-Mobile. So Lumen continues to review its mass markets operation, which spans roughly 2.7 million customers. Options include a joint venture, a wholesale model, an outright sell, and just about anything else. So they're looking at all options. They're exploring everything. Now, here's where it gets interesting and what I wanted to point out. This is from an analyst. So the financial analysts at New Street Research believe one of the big wireless network operators in the U.S., T-Mobile, AT&T, and Verizon, will ultimately end up with Lumen's mass market business. Now, here's why it's so important that T-Mobile to end up with this business, I feel, right? Verizon and AT&T already have large fiber assets at scale, far bigger than anything that T-Mobile is currently doing with Lumos. Even at the end, 2028, when the 3.5 million homes have passed, AT&T and Verizon will still have far, far bigger fiber assets in the network. Fiber to the home, fiber to the cell, whatever the case, Verizon and AT&T, far bigger, far longer of an investment. So T-Mobile needs to play the smart. And the reason is they are using Lumen to go into business dealings. So if there's an enterprise that requires fiber where FWA doesn't work or anything federally related, like if they have to go into a federal contract for an agency, whatever, T-Mobile uses Lumen and they jointly bid on that where it's needed. So T-Mobile, this wouldn't really disrupt T-Mobile going after those accounts, but they could significantly pay higher pricing for that asset if, say, an AT&T or Verizon were to buy up the mass market business. They could potentially end up paying more. Now, of course, there are deals on the back end that T-Mobile could possibly strike that could prevent that from happening, at least for several amounts of years, right? They could strike it, say, hey, look, we have this contract. It's a binding contract. It's good for 5 years at this cost. So T-Mobile would be shielded somewhat. But at the end of that, when that runs out, they would have to renegotiate with the new owner if Lumen does go ahead and put the assets up for sale, the entire catalog. Now, I still think that if that does happen, T-Mobile needs to make a bid. Now, here's what's interesting, too. T-Mobile has been in front of the regulatory bodies quite a bit, right? They were, I mean, big as day, right? Big spotlight on them as daylight when they got the Sprint merger through. They were in front of the regulatory bodies like you wouldn't believe, right? FCC, DOJ, states. They were in and out of courts. Recently, they were just, again, in front of the regulatory bodies about this Mint and Ultra deal. And now with this Lumos deal, I'm sure they have to go in front of the FCC again. So how often do they want to be in front of the government, right? I mean, if it makes sense for shareholders and the business, fine, so be it. But at some point, they're going to say, hey, look, you're consolidating, you're adding a lot of businesses. We need to really look into this. Like, what does this really do? And it might be fine, right? If you, given the scale of what AT&T owns today, Verizon owns today, and some of the other players, it might be fine. And there might not be any issues and T-Mobile can just buy Lumen. But it would come, I would say, at a pretty decent cost. It won't be cheap for T-Mobile. And I just wonder what that would do for the overall business, right? Would they have a problem taking on the additional debt that they would have to? They would have to take on debt. They would have to go to the debt market to buy Lumen if that does go up for sale. That's 100%, because you gotta include all of the asset the cost of the asset of Lumen. That's going to be quite expensive. I'm thinking maybe like somewhere in the 30 to $40 billion range. And that's everything, right? Not just the fiber itself, but the back end and everything it takes to run it. T-Mobile would have to take that on. And then whatever outstanding debt that Lumen has already in the business today, T-Mobile would likely have to take that on as well. So this could be quite an expensive adventure if T-Mobile decides to say, look, we'll just go ahead and buy it. And the reason it has me thinking otherwise too is because this would go completely against anything capital light. T-Mobile has been signaling to the street like, hey, we're going to do fiber, but we are going to do it capital light. This purchase would clearly not be capital light. This would clearly fall on the balance sheet. So this would be totally different, right? This would add to T-Mobile's debt severely. This would cost them billions of dollars. And they would have to operate, right? So the OpEx goes up. You need to now run an actual wireline business if you purchase these assets. So something for you guys to think about, right? I think T-Mobile needs to go big on this, in my opinion. I don't know what Lumen does, right? If they do sell the entire catalog, so be it. If they do the wholesale, we already know Verizon doesn't really favor that model. AT&T might step in and say, we like that because they've done it with BlackRock. And then T-Mobile clearly likes that model. I don't know what they're seeing, but they like that model. They just bought 50% stake in Lumos. They got other smaller fiber players that they're doing the wholesale model with. So T-Mobile would definitely be interested if Lumen does go up for wholesale. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe if you're new. Follow my social media outlets. This is Tyrone with Tech Life. See y'all in the next one. Peace.